Hi, everyone. I am going to discuss Pluto in the fourth house today. Um, I'm discussing this because it's just about to leave my fourth house, and I am really happy about that. And so I've gained experience over the last, I guess it would be, so it started to enter my fourth house in 2008 and is leaving um, next year, 2023. So that's quite a long time to have explored what Pluto in the fourth house is. And I feel prepared and equipped to share information with people who are going to be experiencing Pluto in the fourth house coming up. So if you see this in your chart, this is something that's coming into your experience here. Then hopefully some of this information will assist you. So when we're looking at Pluto, we're looking at death and transformation, of course, and everything that has to do with what is hidden, what is within the subconscious realms, what is within the hard edges of what we can experience here. So, any sort of trauma or anything related to finding our power, where we source our power from, where we have any losses of power. And so, the fourth house has everything to do with our feminine nature. And it also has to do with our legacy, because on the flip side of the fourth house, you have the 10th house, which is how our legacy shows up in the world. But the opposite always shows where it's being cultivated and in what realm. So in the fourth house, we're doing all the inner work that will allow us to come into our purpose and shine in our purpose in the world with clarity. And so the fourth house really digs into our foundation and our foundations and what exactly is happening there. So it's everything to do with the home. It's everything to do with the foundations, the deeper foundations of the mind, like how we came to think the way we do, related to our upbringing, related to our childhood, related to our relationship with the mother and the father as well. Um, but from this very feminine approach. So it also has to do with our own femininity and motherhood. So Pluto being here in the fourth house will have you experience all of those related topics in a very forthcoming way. So basically, everything that has been, like, if there's anything unhealed with the mother, that's going to show up immensely. So I started doing, like, looking back now, I can see I started doing all of this healing work, like confronting my mother on everything that I experienced in my childhood around that time. And at the same time, I became pregnant. So I had this really strong drive to create foundation, to establish a home for myself. And all of this work was being done at the same time. So I was pregnant in 2009. And so you can see how, as soon as Pluto entered my fourth house, like, all of this stuff on a foundational level started to come to the surface. And it was like, okay, establishing home, establishing family, carrying on the lineage, the ancestral lineage. And I really started exploring, like, indigenous practices related to motherhood as well, and um, really just getting so deep into motherhood and into the experience of giving, bringing life into this world and giving birth, and everything related to children, and passing that seed on to the next generation. So as I was doing this, it was unearthing so much regarding my own foundation and regarding my family lineage, regarding my ancestral lineage. And so everything came to the surface to be dealt with in terms of, um, you know, power dynamics as a child. And then that reflecting in how I was bringing myself forward as a mother and embracing motherhood. And I had another child shortly after, 19 months later. And so it was this really intense experience with Pluto being there and bringing everything very quickly to the surface to be dealt with. And so as that was occurring, I was dealing with, as I mentioned, all of the issues that I had growing up related to my mother and the conditioning. And I sort of saw this like reflection of, we repeat patterns throughout generations, and then every generation gets better at dealing with these different patterns. We all can reflect on our own childhood and then try to correct, how we're bringing those patterns forward to our own children and into the world. And Pluto's transiting your fourth house. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be bringing forth life into this world, but you might be bringing forth some sort of project, some sort of community. Um, you could be bringing forth, like, unearthing these indigenous practices, and bringing them forward again, right? Really digging into your ancestral lineage and bringing forth anything that has been lost along the way, uh, that needs to be needs to be reintegrated, right, into, beyond the conditioning and beyond anything that you lost growing up. And so this is, whether it's with children or, whether it's with just different projects that you're bringing forth related to your foundation, related to your family, your home, and your femininity, your relationship to your emotions, your relationship to, how you express yourself as a feminine in the world. And if you're masculine listening to this, then obviously it's as well dealing with emotions and dealing with your own mother, understanding that relationship intricately, and then understanding where her feminine traits might have been passed on to you, and then how to balance that within your experience here as a masculine. And so often we can, explore the trauma that was passed on to us through the womb, like all the somatic trauma, that we can integrate when Pluto's transiting our fourth house as a masculine and as a feminine as well. But I think for women, this goes even deeper in terms of, who you are as a woman, um, encompasses everything, your body, and your nature, your feminine nature. And so my experience with my mother, with my foundation, with my ancestral lineage, with my, my own children, and the beautiful lives that I, brought into this world, was played a huge prominent role, but it didn't end there. It continued. Pluto is like, we're going to go all the way. And so Pluto also, then being in the fourth house, started to really dig into, what it means to be a woman, and any sort of imbalances that I had with the masculine was then showing up after I did the work with the mother and with the feminine. And I had to as well, just with other women, because it's all connected. Your relationship to your mother often reflects your relationship to other women. And so finding that balance with other women and coming into, a greater understanding of the exchanges and the dynamics of, um, just like the female psychology and how women interact, and how, where our sourcing of power comes from, like within these relationships, women, um, we have a lot going on in terms of psychology, and we're often very involved in social dynamics, because our nature has been, we've evolved in this way as caregivers and as mothers. And so, the relationships that we develop with the women around us have so much information packed into them with regards to our foundation, our lineage, and our bloodlines. And then really understanding just the female psychology and how each woman is coming from this different lineage, and then how that plays out in the interactions. So the more that you get to know your own psychology, your own bloodline, your own lineage, then the more you can understand others and those differences and where they might be coming from with regards to anybody else's relationship with their mother and their lineage. And so there was a lot of work that was done on that level, regarding relationships with other women, and regarding understanding um, myself, with relationship to my own feminine, and then relationship to the masculine. So the relationship with the masculine had an equal role, I think, of Pluto being in the fourth house, because being a mother and being a feminine is always something that is in balance, that it is manifested, it has its manifestation with that duality of the masculine. And so, really, then understanding how my relationship to the masculine was related to my mother's relationship with the masculine and her experiences with the masculine. And so, kind of untangling a lot of that also happened during this time. And then really understanding, and being able to pick apart, okay, this was my mother's experience, this was her trauma, and this was the conditioning that she received as a child, related to her mother and her father, and the masculine. And then being able to kind of separate myself from her experience to begin to cultivate my own experience with the masculine, and my own experience um, with my children and with other women and with my mother. So, this brought me even deeper into the understanding of the feminine and masculine, and my female role, um, in the world. There's a lot that we can unearth regarding the power dynamics, right? Within ourselves, within the masculine and feminine polarity within ourselves, and then vis-a-vis that with the masculine in the world. This went really deep. So having Pluto here really made me question what it is to be a woman, and really made me start to look at what kind of imprints I was receiving from society about what it is to be a woman, and then digging through all of those to find my true feminine nature, because we have so much influence, right, from all of the basically the corporations, and the marketing campaigns and the advertising regarding what a woman is. And having Pluto here made me, I ended up spending years just really figuring out, well, this is what I've been told a woman is. This is what I've been shown what a woman should be. And wanting to really figure out for myself, well, what is my feminine nature? What does it feel like? What is that natural, authentic feminine within myself? And so I dug into that for many years. And it brought me to really this deep, deep, deep understanding of the connection that we can have, um, with the world through our feminine nature, and with the masculine through our feminine nature. And how the feminine in from a larger perspective, from this really like objective view, is we contain the womb of creation within us, and we can't create without the masculine, right? This is going on a very to the minute, to the really like intricate, energetic perspective of this. We're constantly, just as we come into contact with masculine energy, we are charged up. Our womb becomes charged up with that energy from that specific masculine. And then together, that's how we create in the world. So it's not only about manifesting material things in the world, like you can see these power couples manifesting, great abundance and money and success, but it goes way deeper in terms of how reality is shaped, and how on a global scale, on this like celestial, this cosmic scale, the contact between the masculine and the feminine basically is what dictates the psychic weather and the um, the global state of the world. So um, I really learned about what different energies coming into my womb expressed, not only in my life, in my physical body, my health, my mental health, my physical health, my emotional health, but also how that's affecting and contributing to global health. And so digging into this uh, really intricately allowed me to fine tune my own boundaries regarding my feminine energy and like the potency of that, and understanding that as a woman, we also have to be extremely responsible. Like it is part of our duty, not only for our ancestors, but for the future of humanity, to be at the forefront of this understanding, to be extremely selective, right? And this isn't even talking about sex. This is just about what type of energies. This has to do with the magnetic and the electric and the positive and negative forces in nature, and what sort of energies you want to allow into your womb to start co-creating reality with. And so Pluto being here in the fourth house just made me go so deep into this understanding, because it's really related to our power as the feminine, right? And it's not that we're necessarily um, the gatekeepers. The masculine also are gatekeeping on their end with regards to who, what type of feminine they are going to penetrate their energy with, because that's also going to dictate, if they have a really fine-tuned understanding of how reality is co-created, then they are also going to understand that the energetic state of any woman, emotional state, mental state, is going to dictate how their energy is in turn manifested through the gate of that feminine womb. And so, on my end, being a feminine, I just explored the womb, and I explored this creation process, and I explored Pluto. Made me feel every little movement of energy that entered my womb space. And it was a very kind of traumatic, um, sensorially, having to experience like the nuance of what that was, and to truly feel when um, all these different energies and these different gradients of energies can come in to what it means to be a female vessel on this planet, and then to co-create through me, right? So the the feminine, um, I think, when Pluto transits the fourth house, is truly learning about our power, and learning about where we can sometimes lose our power, and learning about our responsibility, right? And also our responsibility for the masculine, because once energies are connected and intertwined, the creation process begins. And without the proper knowledge, there's no stopping that creation process once it's begun. And so we have to live and learn. And if the creation process begins and the power dynamic within those two energetic imprints are not in balance, it will just suck the life right out of you, right? Or like, what kind of creation are you creating in your womb, right? What is going to manifest out in the world? And so it was a lot to do with as well understanding where the feminine can sacrifice herself as a caregiver, like the martyrdom, and and then also understanding where the masculine does that. Like through that reflection, I was clearly able to see where the men in the world have sacrificed themselves um, in an unhealthy way for the feminine. And so all of these lessons were just went really deep, and the understanding was so great. So the themes around this have, just allowed me to go through that process and go through the healing process with all of that, go through the healing process with my mother, go through the healing process with my ancestors, and begin to truly cultivate like that, the healthy feminine within myself, and also understanding who I am, right? Through understanding who my ancestors were, and understanding myself beyond any trauma within the feminine body, understanding myself beyond the conditioning of my childhood, and and then learning to embrace that feminine essence, because I think a lot of us, especially today in society, we're not truly taught what a woman is, and in the way that we used to through our indigenous practices, and so we've lost touch with that. And Pluto in the fourth house will really help us reconnect with that, and then come into this authentic understanding of it, and to not be afraid of it, but to use it wisely. Because I think that's the key, is, not being afraid of our power, whether we're female or male, understanding the power that we have within ourselves, and uh, understanding where we can abuse of it, and also where it can be abused of us. And so um, I think this pretty much sums up my experience of Pluto in the fourth house. And I hope that everybody who is going to experience Pluto in the fourth house has as much of an opportunity as I had to really go deeply into all of these topics related to the foundation, related to the feminine essence, related to our relationships with our ancestors and what we're here to bring forth as our legacy. So if you're looking to book a session, I do readings, I do astrology readings, and I like to juxtapose a lot of different systems and see what sort of patterns surface. I also do readings just for the Western Hellenistic astrology, but my main squeeze is really looking at all of the charts possible, going from the gene keys to the human design to the Mayan and the Western. Perhaps in 10 years or so, I'll put together a video on Pluto transiting the fifth house, something that I'm really looking forward to. And I know it's going to be a very exciting time. If anyone does have Pluto in the fifth house and like to share in the comments, or Pluto in the fourth house and would like to share their experience, please do. Take care.